Have you ever wondered why our IQ obviously doesn't suddenly drop to 50 points when we speak English? But let's be honest, it somehow feels like it does. Let's think about how it plays out in real life. You're in a conversation and it feels like you can only ever come up with one specific way to say what you want to say. Sure, you can paraphrase if you absolutely have to, but every single attempt feels just as dry. Soulless. You don't know what's funny anymore. You can't joke. You end up sounding completely monotonous, almost as apathetic as a standard customer service chatbot. Hello, I agree. Nice weather. Ugh, typical. Right? But maybe intelligence isn't what disappears at all. Some studies actually show the exact opposite, that speaking a second language is supposed to enhance our IQ. So maybe it's something else. Maybe it's personality. Which brings us to the main question. What do we even mean by personality?
Permanent characteristic traits that remain more or less.
You know what? Forget it. Instead of diving into heavy psychology jargon and academic textbook, let's start with looking at a simple experiment. Imagine asking 3 different people the exact same question. What did you think about a movie? One person says, it was acceptable. Another goes, I literally feel like I need financial compensation for wasting 2 hours of my life. The third one simply goes, meh. It's basically the same opinion, right? Nobody really liked the movie, but totally different delivery, different timing, different humor, different attitude, different personality. So the key point is that personality isn't just what we communicate, it's how we communicate it. And this is where we have to look at the fascinating line between 2 words that sound similar but do completely different things in our brains. Aptitude versus attitude. When we talk about IQ, we're mostly talking about aptitude. That's your raw cognitive horsepower, your memory, and your analytical skills. Psychologists like John Carroll and Peter Skin have shown that this kind of aptitude is largely hardwired, it's cognitive, partly heritable, and is great for helping you ace a grammar test in a formal classroom. But your personality, that doesn't live in your aptitude, it lives in your attitude. Attitude is shaped by culture, your personal experience, and your emotions. And while a high IQ might help you memorize a textbook, research shows that a positive, flexible attitude is a much stronger predictor of whether you will actually succeed in the real world, in immersive, communicative settings. So, when you switch languages and you feel your personality vanish, your cognitive aptitude hasn't changed. Your IQ is completely intact. What's happening is that your emotional attitude, the very thing that transmits your humor, your timing, and your essence, has just been disconnected from the grid.
Part 2. Why does personality disappear?
In my work looking at the intersection of neuroscience and the messy reality of language acquisition, we can break this down into 4 distinct mechanisms.
Mechanism 1. Limited cognitive resources.
So, why does this disconnect happen? Why does our attitude get unplugged the moment we step into a second language? It might come down to a brutal reality of brain mechanics, limited cognitive resources. Let's face it, language learning is a messy, multi-layered business. It's not just about memorizing vocabulary lists or drilling verb conjugations. Beneath the surface, there's a massive, tangled mess of mental gears whirling away all at once. Your brain is simultaneously managing memory, accent, vocabulary, intonation, grammar, emotion, logic, structural syntax, pronunciation, and social appropriateness. While we would love to think that anyone can master a language through sheer willpower, the cognitive reality is much less forgiving. Think of your working memory like a juggler. When you speak a native language, you are a master juggler, but you're only throwing one ball in the air at a time. That ball is your message, the things you want to say. Because the language is automatic. You can throw the ball high, catch it behind your back, make jokes, and show personality. But when you switch to English, suddenly someone throws 5 more balls into your hands all at once. Should I use past perfect or present perfect? I have never been or I had never been. It's unreal past, so the conditional type 2, I guess? Wait, where does the stress fall on this word? But what if the part of the speech changes? Does it affect the stress? Am I boring them? Am I sounding too blunt? Do they even understand my accent? But anyway, this topic low-key makes my blood boil, but I need to remain composed in such a formal setting. You know what I'm saying? Rings a bell? We have all been there. What is happening? Your working memory is hit with a massive wave of cognitive overload. There are simply too many things to monitor simultaneously. And when a computer's RAM is maxed out, it starts shutting down non-essential applications to keep from crashing. Your brain does the exact same thing. It goes into survival mode. It ruthlessly prioritizes basic correctness. It just being understood over everything else. In that high-stress environment, your unique personality, your sharp wit, and your playful banter become an expensive luxury. Your brain literally sacrifices your stats just to make sure you can finish the darn sentence.
Mechanism 2. Anxiety.
While cognitive overload explains the structural side of why we lose our flair, there's a second, deeply emotional mechanism at play here: anxiety. If you've ever taken a language class, you might have heard of Stephen Krashen, a famous linguist who introduced a concept called affective filter hypothesis. Krashen argued that our emotions act like an invisible psychological wall. When you're stressed, self-conscious, or anxious, this filter goes up, blocking incoming language from being processed, therefore preventing you from speaking fluently. Now, Krashen's theory is a classic in language teaching, but what does modern cognitive psychology actually say about this? Well, it essentially confirms it, but with a neurological twist. When you feel anxious in a social setting, your brain perceives that social discomfort as a literal threat. It triggers a mild stress response, flooding your system with cortisol. This emotional static introduces massive noise into your cognitive process. And this is where we get trapped in a brutal, vicious cycle. It always starts with a moment of poor performance. You mispronounce a word or you miss the timing on a joke. This immediately triggers anxiety. Your heart rate spikes slightly and you feel vulnerable. Because you're anxious, you shift into hypervigilance, leading to more self-monitoring. Suddenly, you aren't just speaking, you are policing every single syllable before it leaves your mouth. You become your own harshest critic in real time. And ironically, all that intense self-monitoring uses up the very juggling balls we just talked about, leading to even poorer performance. You become trapped in a loop where the fear of becoming uninteresting or unintelligent freezes the very mechanisms that allow you to be witty and spontaneous. It really feels like our authentic self gets locked behind that psychological wall defense that Krashen talks about.
Mechanism 3. The vocabulary myth and the anatomy of humor.
Now, before we move on, we need to address the elephant in the room. A lot of you may look at all this and go, Zara, it's not that deep, it's just a vocabulary problem. If I memorize enough words, my personality will come out. But I beg to differ. I strongly disagree, okay? Memorizing a bunch of dictionaries is not going to bridge this gap. Why? Because raw vocabulary gives you data. It doesn't give you presence. The things that actually rescue your personality and help you sound human instead of feeling alienated in a foreign language are structural tools. Let's break down what these look like in real life. Okay, I'm gonna start with natural fillers. No, not not these fillers. These are the sounds and words we use to hold the floor while we think. Like, you know, honestly, I mean, well, literally, I guess, shut up, wait, what? Whatever, and so on. Kinda, right? So they keep the conversation flowing smoothly so you don't sound like a buffering reel on IG, you know? The second one is tone and expressive tools. This is the music of your speech, how you shift pitch, stretch a vowel, or even use silence to create emphasis, drama, or sarcasm. A classic example would be Chandler from Friends. How did he do it? It was like, I could not be more, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was like, da-da-da-da-da.
Please, could she be more out of my league? Ross, back me up here.
He can never get a woman like that in a million years.
Thank you, buddy.
Could you want her more? Who?
They do me?
You know, like, okay, could that report be any later?
He gets it back. Pass to the middle, lines it up, and... Yes! Could that shot be any prettier?
Look at me. I'm Chandler. Could I be wearing any more clothes?
His jokes, they always had rhythm. The third one, the course markers. These are words like mind you, by the way, look, on the other hand, that being said, plus, not to mention, in contrast, and etc., which act like signposts showing the listener exactly how your ideas connect. And then there's the holy grail of personality, humor. Let's think critically about this for a second. What is humor exactly? Without getting bogged down in heavy academic theories, humor is fundamentally about subverting expectations. It happens when you exaggerate, when what you say completely contradicts reality, or when a situation accelerates way too quickly. When you dissect it like that, it sounds rather clinical and not very funny. But this is the exact blueprint of what makes humans laugh. Let me give you a real-life example of a situation accelerating way too quickly. There was a meme where there was this crowded room, two people were arguing, and one got interrupted. They snapped and said, "I'm not done speaking, you speak when I'm done." The energy in the room immediately got super awkward and intense. Everyone was thinking, whoa, okay, relax. But then a third person suddenly deadpan.
Security.
It's hilarious. Why? Because the situation hadn't actually escalated to a physical threat level yet. But this person deliberately skipped 5 steps ahead. They exaggerated the intensity of the moment, and critically, they had the precise linguistic tool. Just that one word, delivered with perfect timing to pull it off. Think about another classic internet example. You're scrolling on Instagram and you see a video of someone completely losing their mind, screaming and throwing a tantrum. It is a textbook overreaction, right? But you open the comment section and the top comment simply goes, "Good thing she didn't overreact." And the direct contradiction to reality is the instant comedy here. But here's the catch to us as L2 speakers. When you operate in a foreign language, your brain has to do double the work. It automatically needs to figure out which style of humor actually matches your authentic self. And then it has to hunt for the exact linguistic tools required to execute it. And on top of all of that, it needs a feedback loop to see if the joke landed. It is a complex mental dance, and we are going to dive deep into exactly how you can train your brain to do this dance in our final section when we discuss how to actively rebuild your personality.
Mechanism 4. The neurobiology of emotional learning.
So far we can agree that memorizing endless lists of vocabulary isn't the solution, right? But what is? The answer lies in a specific cognitive mechanism that traditional classrooms completely ignore: emotional learning. Now, emotional learning is a massive topic in psychology, and if you would like me to dedicate a whole future episode to how it changes our brain architecture, let me know in the comments below. But in short, emotional learning happens when you acquire data while simultaneously experiencing a strong emotion. The brain essentially fuses that information and the emotion together. When it comes to linguistics, this fusion is a superpower because it massively facilitates memory retrieval. Think about it. If you hear a specific English phrase during a dramatic confrontation, a heated argument, or a moment of pure hysterical laughter, that phrase gets anchored to that feeling. Later, when you are in a similar emotional state, your brain can retrieve that language effortlessly. Here's the problem for most L2 speakers. The vast majority of the English we learn occurs during incredibly mundane, dull situations. It's textbooks, homework, isolated grammar drills, and standardized quizzes. We are learning the language in an emotional vacuum. Native speakers grow up observing language through intense, real-life emotional highs and lows. But we are often learning while feeling completely apathetic, and your brain simply doesn't prioritize memories that don't have any emotional hook. What should we make of our emotional learning journey? Like a highly organized librarian living inside your lexical resource, the word bank in your brain. When you learn a word with emotion attached to it, that librarian knows exactly which shelf it belongs on, and they can find it for you in a split second when you need it. But when you learn a word while feeling totally numb or bored, it's like throwing a book into a massive chaotic pile on the floor. The librarian has no idea where to catalog it. And the data is technically in your brain. But since there's no emotional data attached to it, you can't access it when you're under pressure in a real conversation. So, in summary, if emotions aren't attached to your vocabulary, your brain doesn't know where to put the books. But let's connect that directly to personality. What is personality really? At its core, it's your automatic reaction to the world. It's how you naturally respond when you're startled, thrilled, irritated, deeply moved, happy, excited, surprised. In your native language, those emotional reactions are hardwired to specific words. When you're shocked, the perfect phrase flies out of your mouth instantly. But in English, your learning journey was completely different. It lacked that emotional intensity, so the exact moment a real-life situation triggers a massive wave of excitement or surprise, your brain goes totally blank. You know what an English speaker might deadpan, but the question is like, am I someone who would say geez when surprised? Or,
Oh my god. Oh, come on. Jesus Christ. What the Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, no. Oh, come on. Oh my god.
so the learner of the language might not possess those instinctive emotional trigger words yet. This stark contrast between an emotionally intense native language and an emotionally sterile second language is what makes you sound like a robot. You aren't losing your identity, obviously, you just haven't wired your English vocabulary to your nervous system yet. That is exactly why your personality gets left in the dark. Part 3, Rebuilding. Solution 1, Automation through chunks. Now that we understand the barriers blocking our personality away, how do we actively turn them down? How do we rebuild our authentic selves in a second language? Let's start with the cure for cognitive overload, automation. To understand what automation actually means, I want you to look at your memory retrieval system like the hippocampus through a story. Imagine your memory is a wise master living on top of a mountain and you're traveling from your home to ask them questions. At first, the path to that master's house is rough. It's barely a road. There are rocks, bumps, and thick bushes. The journey takes forever and sometimes you get lost, stuck, or don't even make it. But every time you make that journey, you clear a few branches, you smooth out a few rocks. Through conscious repetition and time, you slowly pave a road. Eventually, that neural pathway becomes so strong and straight that you can walk to the master's house with your eyes closed. Smooth, effortless, and automatic. But hey, please don't mistake this with rote learning. Repeating a random word 100 times in a row doesn't guarantee your brain will remember it under pressure. There are far more complex physiological mechanisms happening under the surface. Instead, the secret to building this smooth highway is memorizing in chunks. Instead of treating language like individual Lego bricks you have to piece together mid-sentence every time, you need to treat it like pre-built blocks. Think of conversational anchors like, as far as I'm concerned, that being said, or even something as long as I've never thought about it before. When you want to use these phrases, there's absolutely no reason to pause and think about the next preposition or word order. It is one single unit, every time. If you learn them as a whole, you can say them in a row quickly without thinking, which instantly frees up your brain's energy to focus on humor and timing. The same rule applies to collocation, words that naturally puzzle together like puzzle pieces. Why waste time debating whether a task is hard or difficult when we can just pull the pre-assembled chunk, daunting task straight from our memory, or staggering prices, or rough road? But remember, biology is a use it or lose it system. If you start walking that path to the master's house for a long time, the bushes grow back, the road disappears, and you lose that automation. If you want to dive deeper into how this fading happens, make sure to check out episode 4 where we broke down the science of language attrition. But if you want to keep that path clear now, start collecting chunks, treat them like a single word, and watch your fluency accelerate. Solution 2, lowering the filter in the rehearsal room. Our second solution is all about lowering that affective filter and breaking the anxiety loop. And to do that, I actually want to give some credit to a place I usually critic, the English classroom. While traditional classrooms can be rigid, a good communicative classroom is a safe place designed specifically for learners. Yes, we will make mistakes there, but that is exactly the point. A good classroom is one of the few places where a mistake isn't a social failure, it's expected. Think of it as a rehearsal room, not a performance stage. Every time you try out a joke, disagree politely, or tell a story in class, you are doing way more than practicing grammar. You're experimenting with who you are in that language. But don't just show up to class. You have to shift your mindset, leave your perfectionism at the door, and increase your tolerance for imperfection. Making mistakes is the literal engine of this journey. Every single time I get corrected for mispronouncing tranquilizing, I get one step closer to remembering it effortlessly. As a side note that is very close to my heart, if you speak more than one language, you should be just incredibly proud, period. Managing multiple linguistic roles is highly commendable and deeply admirable, regardless of your current English level, your accent, or official IELTS score. We need to internalize this pride, use it to silence our internal judgmental voice, and little by little carve out our authentic selves. Solution 3. Studying a style and the inner child. Our third solution targets the core elements of your identity: feelers, tone, and humor. To unlock these, you have to stop studying data and start studying style. In my second episode, I argued that reality shows, dramas, and novels are incredible language teachers. But as I've emphasized throughout the episode, they don't just teach you vocabulary, they teach you personality. When you engage with the storytelling, you start noticing the subtle architecture of human interaction. How a confident person disagrees without being aggressive. How a shy person hesitates or softens their speech. How a sarcastic person utilizes a deliberate pause right before the punchline. How a warm person wraps someone else in comfort using only their voice. And how an awkward person gracefully recovers from a moment of embarrassment. You are observing human personality in action, and eventually, if you watch enough, some of those expressions naturally begin to feel like your own. If you want a highly specific practical way to do this, try binge watching a specific character from a movie, a series, or even a real-life public figure. Your own teacher even. Don't worry, this process involves a few inevitable phases of trial and error, and you won't end up a carbon copy of them. For example, my own linguistic style was shaped by a cocktail of influences. I pulled from Gina Linetti in Brooklyn Nine-Nine for her direct frankness, Shiv Roy in Succession for her confidence and cold elegance, and Professor Robert Sapolsky for his fluid wit while teaching incredibly complex, tedious academic material. Why does this work so effortlessly? The answer lies in a famous psychological framework developed by Eric Berne in the 1950s called TA, or transactional analysis. Berne argued that the human psyche is split into 3 different ego states. Primarily, the parent, the adult, and the child. The parent state contains all the behaviors, expressions, and attitudes we copy directly from our actual parents or early authority figures. The child state is our emotional core, the seat of our creativity, our spontaneous joy, and our instinct to adapt and copy those we look up to in order to learn. When we're children, our child ego state effortlessly mirrors the parent state of our caregivers without any conscious effort. When you deeply admire, like, or look up to a character or a speaker, you trigger that exact same psychological mechanism. Your inner child views them as a linguistic blueprint. You begin to effortlessly absorb their cadence, their posture, and their tone, almost like a child mimicking a parent. You aren't stealing a script. You are feeding your inner child the precise emotional tools it needs to play, joke, and exist in a second language. Mission 4, the lowest stakes laboratory. Finally, to solve our fourth mechanism, the emotional vacuum, you have to step out of the textbook and into high emotion immersion. You have to quite literally live the language. To get that internal librarian in your brain to properly catalog your vocabulary, you need to tie English to your actual passions. Listen to your absolute favorite genres of music. Watch movies that genuinely make you cry or laugh out loud. Because those tastes and emotional reactions are the literal foundation of your personality. But don't stop at just consuming media. You need to start actively experimenting with your output in real-world, low-stakes environments. One of my favorite places to do this is actually the social media comment section. Think of it as a tiny psychological laboratory. Leave a comment on a video, test a joke, express a strong opinion, see how people react. Do they like it? Do they laugh? Do they reply? It's a completely safe way to see how your humor lands in English without any real-world social consequences. Go even further, write in a personal journal, read books that challenge you, create content in your target language, or reach out to other learners or supportive native speakers. Or hey, do what I'm doing right now, host a podcast. Sitting behind a microphone and sharing my thoughts with you is the ultimate low-stakes practice. Every episode is a space where I get to actively build, test, and refine who I am in English. At the end of the day, if you feel like a robotic, boring version of yourself when you speak English, please remember, your intelligence hasn't dropped. Your IQ is completely intact. You are simply navigating the messy reality of a brain trying to handle cognitive overload, emotional walls, a lack of stylistic tools, and an emotional vacuum. Your personality hasn't vanished. It is just waiting for you to build the bridges it needs to cross over. So, collect your language in chunks, treat the classroom as your rehearsal room, study the style of the people you admire, and start treating the internet as your personal laboratory. Little by little, the road to the master's house will smooth out. The internal librarian will recognize the shells and your authentic self will come shining through. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If this resonates with you, please leave a comment below sharing which of the 4 mechanisms trip you up the most. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with a fellow language learner who needs to find their voice. Until next time, keep carving your authentic self.